Annenberg Media.
I personally cannot conceive of living without writing. It's a great prop, a pillow.
There's a line by English novelist Virginia Woolf that, for me, defines great writing. In her book Orlando, she says, "We write not with the fingers, but with the whole person." Literature that affects us most, I think, comes not only from the writer's intellect, but also from the heart. And the two unite clearly in the literature of nonfiction, the essay. Like short stories, poetry, and plays, essays are also imaginative literature. In fact, the majority of what writers write, publishers publish, and readers read is nonfiction, an offshoot of the essay. Self-help books, travel guides, autobiographies, college student papers, newspapers, magazines. Of course, not all literary classics, but still tied to a literary tradition, the essay. Essays are difficult to categorize. Their subjects are endless, from the trivial to the serious. They can be funny, argumentative, philosophical, critical. But all essays are based on fact, although they often use some of the techniques of fiction. For instance, essays are structured. They all have a beginning, middle, and end. But an essay doesn't rely on an invented plot. Instead, its subject is a topic or idea that has captivated the writer. Whether analyzing a poem or arguing for a position, good essayists, those who write with the whole person, can captivate readers. They can inform or entertain or persuade us. Since the form was first developed, essays have made readers consider, briefly or at length, the author's viewpoint. An essay is a product of its time, because essays spring not only from a writer's imagination, but from the writer's era as well. The era in which the essay developed was one of breathtaking changes in literature. The invention of the printing press in the 15th century created a new reading public. Books, previously handwritten manuscripts, were no longer the property of just church and state. With more books available, literacy grew. The Western world was immersed in the Renaissance, a time of artistic awakening, stimulated by the study of classical art and literature. The classics could now be printed. More people were open to ideas that were at the same time old and new. The time was right for a new kind of writing, the essay.
This book was written in good faith, reader. I want to be seen here in my simple, natural, ordinary fashion, for it is myself that I portray. Michel de Montaigne.
Montaigne was a French statesman and scholar. In 1571, he retired at the age of 38 to read, meditate, and write. During the next 5 years, his attempts at writing, that is, in French, essay, evolved. What was new about his writing was his style, informal, personal, concrete, with touches of humor. He titled his essays, "Of Fear," of the custom of wearing clothes, of friendship.
Our life is composed, like the harmony of the world, of contrary things, also of different tones, sweet and harsh, sharp and flat, soft and loud. If a musician liked only one kind, what would he have to say? He must know how to use them together and blend them, and so must we do with good and evil. Our existence is impossible without this mixture, and one element is no less necessary for it than the other.
The entire 16th century was a time in which essays flourished. In London in 1597, there appeared a slim volume called Essays by Francis Bacon, the first English essayist. His style was more formal than Montaigne's, his essays more impersonal. They had compactness, clarity, rich phrases, and offered useful advice about daily living.
Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. Francis Bacon.
Each era creates its own demands on the essay, but whatever the style or form or purpose, they are all marked with the personal stamp of the author. They are prose with a point.
These are the times that try men's souls. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. The American Crisis, Thomas Paine, 1776.
A political victory, a rise of rents, the recovery of your sick, or the return of your absent friend, or some other favorable event raises your spirits, and you think good days are preparing for you. Do not believe it. Nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles. Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1841.
I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Letter from the Birmingham City Jail, Martin Luther King, Jr., 1963.
Since its inception, the essay has been a way for writers to convey a thought, an idea, a moment in time, so that we, in turn, may consider it too. When Martin Luther King wrote about whatever affects one directly, he was referring, of course, to racial injustice. But one purpose of the essay itself is to affect the reader. All essays attempt to explain or persuade. Sometimes the persuasion is strong and forceful, like Thomas Paine's message to the colonist. But it can be subtle, and not all essays tackle grand topics. Many essays are written about the simplicities of life. In all cases, the author wants the reader to understand or even adopt his or her viewpoint. Essays can be grouped by their purpose. Personal essays concentrate on the writer's thoughts and experiences to entertain the reader. Expository essays explain a subject in an effort to inform the reader, and argumentative essays try to win the reader over to the writer's position. An essay can include all three purposes, even though one usually dominates. Willie Morris wrote an essay called A Love That Transcends Sadness, and it's a quiet lyrical piece that is personal, expository, and even gently persuasive. Even as we get swept up in the words, the point of the essay is clear. Morris believes that cemeteries represent not death, but tranquility through memories.
Not too long ago, in a
a small southern town where I live, I was invited by friends to go with them and their children to the cemetery to help choose their burial plot. My friends are in the hardiest prime of life and do not anticipate departing the Lord's earth immediately, and hence, far from being funereal, our search had an adventurous mood to it, like picking out a Christmas tree. It was that hour before twilight, and the marvelous old graveyard with its cedars and magnolias and flowering glades sang with the Mississippi springtime. The honeysuckled air was an affirmation of the tugs and tremors of living. My companions had spent all their lives in the town, and the names on even the oldest stones were as familiar to them as the people they saw every day. Location, the man of the family said, laughing. As the real estate magnates say, we want location. Their humor coincided with mine, for I am no stranger to graveyards. With rare exceptions, ever since my childhood, they have suffused me not with foreboding, but with a sense of belonging, and as I grow older, with a curious, ineffable tenderness. My dog, Pete, and I go out into the cemeteries not only to escape the telephone and those living beings who place more demands on us than the dead ever would, but to feel a continuity with the flow of the generations. Living, William Faulkner wrote, is a process of getting ready to be dead for a long time. I have never been lonely in a cemetery. They are perfect places to observe the slow changing of the seasons and to absorb human history. The tragedies and anguishes, the violences and treacheries, and always the guilts and sorrows of vanished people. In a preternatural quiet, one can almost hear the palpable long-ago voices.
Willie Morris's essay may appear at first to be random associations, but like all strong essays, it is really a tightly written, cohesive piece. Greg Olmer of the University of Florida explains how Morris has created a structured, effective piece of prose.
What we maybe overlook is the extraordinary way in which this is organized, so that all along the way we know exactly what he's talking about. The brilliance of the piece is the extent to which it's intelligible from the very beginning. He orients the reader, saying exactly what he's going to do by setting up a little scene, which very naturally just tells an anecdote, but this serves the function of orientation. And then he begins to elaborate on that. So the structure is really very, very tight. We know why he's elaborating on it. We know why he's talking about all of those graveyards now.
Benjamin DeMott of Amherst College comments on the kaleidoscope of images that Morris brings into a sharp focus.
You get an array, in other words, of perspectives here that are drawn together, even finally the literary perspective and Faulkner's observation about most of life being spent as a preparation for getting ready to be dead. So you get a mind that's in the process of drawing together a wide variety of human activities, from thinking to digging to writing and reflecting in the largest sense, drawing those activities together in one frame, the frame that's provided by the reality of human transitoriness, human evanescence, the brevity of life, and these are the poles or the frame. That's the frame that governs all the contents, that holds all the contents in the box. The box is the box of feeling about impermanence.